You shall not pass. Any fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy will recognize that declaration from Gandalf when he faced the demon in the mines of Mount Moria. There he stood firm against the demon, like light stands unwavering against the darkness. Now who knows where Tolkien first heard that phrase, but it very well may have been from the Bible. As the 40 years of wandering were winding down, Moses led Israel up the east side of the Jordan and encountered their cousins the Edomites. As heirs of Esau, the brother of Jacob, they were related and should have let them pass through their land. However, despite a polite request, Edom refused with that famous phrase, "You shall not pass," and a threat of violence if they tried, Numbers 20, verses 14 through 21. In one sense, it makes sense. Even though it had been many generations, the history of Jacob stealing the birthright and blessing would have been passed down from father to son. Israel would have become the focus of their hate, as over time the forgiveness would have faded and the resentment would have rebounded. Now, when faced with a horde of people, all that anger and resentment boiled over. Plus, they may have thought the nation would be like the father and steal from them again. Still, this was the opposite of the Lord of the Rings example in that darkness refused to let the light pass through. Despite their spite, God didn't punish them, instead sending Israel around a different way to avoid conflict between Edom and Israel. For us, these two examples present an interesting contrast. In some cases, we need to take a strong stand against sin, light against darkness, obedience against rebellion, truth against lies, particularly in our personal lives and within the church. There, sin must be steadfastly opposed. That's why Jesus refused to give in to Satan's temptation in the wilderness, Matthew 4, verses 1 to 11. In some ways, our most difficult task is standing strong against all sin that wants our heart and saying, in effect, "You shall not pass." But even there, violence isn't an acceptable tactic. But our approach to the world doesn't even permit verbal violence, much less physical. Jesus was our perfect example at the cross, where he refused to strike back at his accusers and executioners. For you have been called for this purpose, since Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example for you to follow in his steps, who committed no sin, nor was any deceit found in his mouth. And while being reviled, he did not revile in return. While suffering, he uttered no threats, but kept entrusting himself to him who judges righteously, and he himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. For by his wounds you were healed. 1 Peter 2, verses 21 through 25. Jesus stood strong against Satan and defeated the darkness by refusing to retaliate. How often do we get it backwards by attacking the world's sin and excusing our own? Let's be sure we fight the right battles. Well, come back tomorrow for more Morning Minutes in the Bible. Until then, this is James McClenny hoping you have a great day.